All right. So, what is the meaning to you? Like, what does philosophy mean to you?
What does philosophy mean? It's kind of a hard question because you can look at philosophy as a discipline, like a subject, and it can mean all kinds of things. But I think it means basically ideas about what matters in life, what meaning is. There's philosophy of religion, for example, about God and whether and how and what He exists or she exists, and philosophy of lots of different kinds of things. And I think it's just basically a way of, and I'm not being very articulate here, but how do our minds work and what matters and what is meaning.
Oh, okay. So, do you think like philosophy, the study of philosophy, leads to more questions?
I think personally, I think people think differently, but I think um, that there are always more questions, and some people get frustrated by that. But for me, that's part of what makes philosophy interesting: is that every question has partial answers that lead to new questions, and it's something we can never know everything for sure, at least not in our own lifetimes. And I think that that's part of what makes it interesting. I think that the questions are, in answering the questions, it brings up more questions than are answered, and it's kind of like the saying, the more you know you don't know.
All right. Next question is, what do you think about immortality? Do you think, like, if you were immortal, would you like? How would you feel about that? Like, what's your point?
Um, it's interesting because I have read things or seen things where being immortal is almost like a negative thing, where it just ends up being kind of a repetition, and you see people around you that don't continue. But I think that that's kind of part of the human condition, is the fact that we're not immortal, and I think being immortal would be a chance to keep improving, keep learning new things, and the life is like a wonderful, exciting thing, and we don't always see that. And I think perhaps with immortality, you'd have a chance at least to see that more frequently and to reach to a point where you can really see what matters again all the time, as much as possible.
Okay. Do you believe that the humans have a soul? Like, do you believe that if we did have a soul, would it be immortal, or would it die when you die? If
I think I'm not going to give a straight answer to that one. I've had a couple important people in my life die recently, so I've been thinking about that thing quite a bit. My father, for instance, died this past summer, and the way that I think that our soul lives on is in others, and things that I learned from him, the kind of person he was, specific things I learned. He was my music teacher, but more than that, the love that we share with one another is something that lives on. So I would answer, does our soul live on? I'm not sure, but I think that the love we give to others lives on in those people and in the world.
okay, now let's like change the topic and change about dreams. What are your viewpoints in dreams? Why do you think we dream?
That's also something I've thought a lot about. I had a 3 to 5 year period where I wrote down dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Not lived, I worked half a block from the Jung Center in Evanston for 6.5 years. And I did a lot of listening to tapes about dreams, and I did a lot of writing of my own dreams. And I thought a lot about that question, what are they? The thing that's so interesting about dreams is things come, for instance, people that we haven't seen for 40 years and might not even remember their names, and then they come into your dreams and you know exactly who they are. And I think that dreams, I'm not sure if I'd use the word God precisely, but I think that dreams are telling us something and teaching us something. Part of it, I think, comes from our subconscious, but I think part of it comes from totally outside ourselves. Jung believed in something called the collective unconscious. So it's something that all human beings share certain images and certain things that come to us. We don't necessarily look for it. So dreams to me are a fascinating, mysterious, wonderful thing, and I love to pay attention to my dreams. And I'm sorry right now that I have to get up so early that I don't have enough energy in the morning to write down my dreams anymore.
All right. So one of these questions comes from, like, if you were able to, let's say you were able to know, like, how would you know how you, like, let's say you would, what is your idea? Like, nah, not your idea, but like, how do you think you would die? Like, let's say you were able to, like, tell, like, how do you think
I don't think I will die.
yeah,
Maybe that's a question.
yeah,
Oh wow! Now that's interestingly something I haven't thought about. There's a Peruvian poet named Cesar Vallejo who wrote a poem saying where and when exactly he was going to die, and it actually was true. It was in Paris. He said he was going to die, and he did. I really don't know. I feel personally, I have this sense, and I could be totally wrong, that I'm going to live quite a bit longer. I mean, my dad was 93, and I hope I kind of go in that direction.
Mm.
But how I'm going to die, I really don't know. It's not something that really is occupies my mind, and I don't know. No
Okay.
ideas.
And do you know any philosophers or like anybody who's like you've studied that really interests you?
Philosophers that I liked, they're not necessarily like philosophers of like that are studied academically quite as much, but philosophers I really like are Emerson and Thoreau from the American Renaissance in the 19th century. What their belief, they believed in something called transcendentalism, that we have a connection kind of to the universe, to nature, to things like that, and that we can basically we live our everyday life, but that as Thoreau said, the universe is in a bean plant, that all around us is significance and meaning, and everything is worth connecting to, and we ourselves, like some Eastern philosophers believe that sort of God is within all of us, and Jesuits too, that God is in all things. And I think that's kind of the kind of philosophy that I find interesting and attracted to. So my first thought would be Emerson and Thoreau.
Oh, okay. And one last question is, what is, let's see, what is your, I had the question, hold up. What is your, how do you think, like, what's the purpose of life? Like, what do you think the purpose of life is, and how do you achieve it?
Again, those answers to these questions are very, very difficult. But one thing I think, our purpose is to be who we are. We're kind of given a nature, and so often life pulls us away from that, or we ourselves aren't strong enough to maintain that. And I think that if we believe we're here for a purpose, and I don't know if that's actually true, but I think life can be more meaningful if we believe that I think that our purpose, for example, I played in a concert 2 nights ago, and I felt in those moments like I was being who I was. And I think that no matter what you do, your work, your life, the key is, who am I? Is this meaningful to me? Am I doing the right thing, living my own life instead of the life that's prescribed for us all around? And that's a very tough road to walk, but I think that that's kind of where our purpose for being here is, to fulfill our natures, to be who we are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Oswald.